How are you guys doing? Today is Tuesday, March 1st, 2022. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an elite individual profile on Ja'Marr Chase. The elite wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals turns 22 today, and my intention with this episode is, of course, to zoom in and, of course, focus on how he's been able to establish himself as an elite wide receiver in the NFL, game in and game out, after just one season in the NFL with the Bengals, after having sat out his last year of eligibility in college because he was so sure that he was going to get drafted. And of course, I'm going to zoom out and look at how he's literally impacted the teams that he's been on at such an elite level. And I'm literally going to make the case that Ja'Marr Chase, at 22 years old today, is one of the best athletes in the NFL and has proven himself to be one of the world's elite football players. So, if you're not familiar with Ja'Marr Chase, he stands at about 6 feet tall, 200 pounds. He's a very dynamic athlete, of course, very quick and very explosive off the line. He can make incredible catches, and the fact that he has incredible chemistry with his professional football quarterback, who is literally his college quarterback, I think speaks a lot of wonders, and I think it also adds a lot of context as to why he's been able to fit in so well with this Bengals offense so seamlessly, and alongside a quarterback that was able to win the comeback player of the year. But that doesn't take away from Ja'Marr Chase's ability to create as much as he can from the wide receiver role. So, originally from Harvey, Louisiana, he would go on to play high school football in Louisiana, and, just football in that region is incredibly big, hence why the SEC is incredibly dominant. He would go on to get recruited to play at LSU after initially committing to the University of Kansas. Yeah, that's right, Kansas. He would go on to play 3 seasons, or he would commit to play at the minimum 3 seasons at LSU in 2018 under Ed Orgeron after he took over for Les Miles. Ja'Marr Chase's very first season would be his freshman season in 2018. He would go on to start 8 of those 14 games in a season where LSU would finish with a 10-3 record. They would finish as a top 10 team in the nation, as they ended up beating UCF in the PlayStation Fiesta Bowl that year. In Ja'Marr Chase's first year, he would go on to finish with 313 total yards on the year, as he had 3 total touchdowns from scrimmage. However, he would see his production completely change over the next season, and in 2019, which would be the season where Joe Burrow would completely take over and Ja'Marr Chase would become a full-time starter, his sophomore season, he would go on to start all 14 games he would play in a season where LSU would go 15-0 undefeated. Once they would make it through the regular season, they would go on to beat Oklahoma 63-28, as in they beat Oklahoma 9 touchdowns to 4. They beat them by 5 touchdowns in that semifinal game. This was also when Justin Jefferson, who was on the Minnesota Vikings and was named the Offensive Rookie of the Year, but the year before him was on that same exact team. They would go into the College Football Playoff National Championship game, and they would beat Clemson, and this is when Trevor Lawrence was Clemson's starting quarterback. So this would be a very big game for them. Ja'Marr Chase would go on to lead LSU in receiving yards, or he led the game in receiving yards for the championship. He had 9 receptions for 221 yards and 2 touchdowns. He would go on to become a college football national champion. And then a month before the start of his junior season, or I guess before I get there, following his sophomore season, he would be named to the first team of all SEC, which is a very tough first team to make. He was a consensus All-American, meaning everyone voted him to be on the first team. He was given the Fred Biletnikoff Award, which is given to the best wide receiver in football. And, of course, he would go on to take home the title. But that was only his sophomore year, so he wouldn't be able to go to the NFL yet. But before his junior season, after receiving, in my opinion, wise counsel and wise advice, and not because of COVID-19, he would decide not to play his junior season to not risk injury, but of course spend that junior season building himself up and keeping himself in shape to be ready to compete in the NFL the next year. After Joe Burrow had already gone, he would go on to miss an LSU Tiger season where they would go 5-5 in a COVID season that was completely shortened. But following that 2020 season, Ja'Marr Chase would still establish himself as one of the top overall drafts prospects. He would be the top wide receiver taken and the 5th overall pick in the 2021 NFL draft. And that was the most recent draft to date, of course, as it happened last summer. I even have a episode on it. You can click on it. This would be the draft where Trevor Lawrence was taken 1st overall by the Jaguars. Other Pro Bowlers in his draft class include Kyle Pitts, the elite tight end for the Atlanta Falcons. He was taken right before Ja'Marr Chase out of Florida with the 4th overall pick. Micah Parsons would be taken by the Dallas Cowboys out of Penn State with the 12th overall pick. He's their elite young linebacker. The Los Angeles Chargers would draft their offensive tackle, Rashawn Slater, out of Northwestern, who would become a Pro Bowler. And then the Patriots would draft Mac Jones out of Alabama with the 15th overall pick. He became a Pro Bowler. Najee Harris, who would go on to start for the Pittsburgh Steelers, he would be named as an alternate. He would be named a Pro Bowler as a rookie as well. He was taken out of Alabama by the Steelers with the 24th overall pick. But of course, looking to Ja'Marr Chase, he was the top player at his position despite having not played his entire junior year. Of course, confirming that the advice he received was pretty sound advice. And after his 2 years, he would go on to get a start, and he has only gone on to play this most recent season with the Cincinnati Bengals, as this most recent season was his rookie season, his age 21 season. In his lone season in the NFL, and the NFL's first season in which every team would play 17 games instead of 16, he would go on to start all 17 of the games he played for a Bengals team that would go 10-7. They would go on to win their division for the first time since 2015, ending a 5-year playoff drought in Zach Taylor's 3rd season, taking over as head coach over from Marvin Lewis. And in this first season, Ja'Marr Chase would go on to be a Pro Bowler and make 2nd team All-Pro as a rookie wide receiver. He would go on to be the Offensive Rookie of the Year as well. In this season, he would finish with 81 receptions for 1,455 receiving yards on the season, which even for like a pro player in their prime is an incredible amount of receiving yards to put up. He would also go on to finish with 13 touchdowns on the year, which is an insane amount of receiving touchdowns to put up. This was also put up while Joe Burrow would go on to be named the comeback player of the year, and he would go on to put up an incredible amount of yards and touchdowns as well. So they were both benefiting off of each other amongst other players in that offense. And following the season in which Ja'Marr Chase would be named a Pro Bowler, he would be named to the 2nd team All-Pro in just his first year playing. The Bengals would go on to win their wild card game, beating the Raiders by a touchdown. They would go on to beat the Titans in the divisional playoff round by a field goal. They would beat the Chiefs in the AFC Championship in overtime. After the Chiefs had the initial chance in overtime to win that game. And then after going to the Super Bowl, after having won the AFC, the Bengals would end up losing Super Bowl 56 by a field goal to the Los Angeles Rams, who were the 2nd team in NFL history to host and win a Super Bowl in their home city or in their home stadium. So that is virtually how his narrative gets exactly to where we are right now. But just based off of this one season, you get a sense for what can be for Ja'Marr Chase. And considering what he's already done an amazing job as he enters now as he turns 22. I do think that Ja'Marr Chase has a bright future ahead of him, which is why it's always good to do these profile for the younger players. But I can't wait to see what he does in these up and coming years. With that said, I want to thank the college and pro football reference websites, as well as the NFL and the Wikipedia articles that I needed for this episode. If you ever get a chance to watch Ja'Marr Chase, I would. He's wearing number 1 for the Cincinnati Bengals. And considering how long Joe Burrow is there, Ja'Marr Chase might be there for life. Or he's going to be there for at least for a bit. And hopefully by this time next year, he'll have done a lot in his second season with the Cincinnati Bengals. Many people are expecting a lot, especially after this year where he's already established himself. He's put himself on the standard where he can be judged alongside the best wide receivers in football in just his second year. But that should give you an idea for who Ja'Marr Chase is, and hopefully his play will speak for himself following this. With that said, I want to thank everyone else for listening once again. I hope all is well. Once all of today's exhibitions and matchups are done, I'm going to come back tomorrow on Wednesday, March 2nd for another episode. And until then, I want to thank everyone for listening. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode tomorrow. And hopefully another episode for Ja'Marr Chase this time next year. Thanks for listening. Peace out.